Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, a green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Oh, Miss Lucy dead and gone, left me here to weep and moan.
Within the South Carolina Botanical Garden, on the campus of Clemson University, sits a small structure known as Hunt Cabin. The cabin and its historical importance remain mostly unknown to both the students of the university and the local residents as well. Hunt Cabin reflects the lives of residents of South Carolina's frontier in the United States antebellum South. Unlike the Low Country, the farming communities and plantations of the upstate never existed on the large scale the plantations in the lower part of the state did, especially those in Charleston. The idea of these large expansive homes with sprawling acreage dominates the minds of visitors and even a large percentage of the residents in the South. Due to Hunt Cabin's smaller stature, this difference in lifestyle becomes rather obvious. As you can see, the cabin is quite small. It consists of a large room on the bottom floor with a large fireplace, and upstairs there is a loft. Contrast between the residents of the upstate and low country can be seen in the homes that they lived in, the crops they grew, and the amount of those crops that they produced. The low country, due to the climatic differences, thrived more so on cash crops and was able to have large plantations. Even though there are a great number of expansive houses along the coast, the majority of residents were yeoman farmers on a scale similar to those in the upstate. Upstate farmers, however, had fewer cash crops and rougher environments, meaning that even their large plantations were relatively small when compared to those in the low country. Most were subsistence farmers who either never owned slaves or owned much fewer slaves because they never had the large fields that had to be tending. While the low country residents favored expansive houses with large porches for summer living, upstate residents favored smaller, more utilitarian houses for the most part. Like most upstate houses, Hunt Cabin was built from local materials rather than goods received by trade. This is just one example of the crucial role that land played in the lives of the settlers due to their large separation from society and the isolation. Ransom Hunt's grandfather, Charles Hunt Sr., migrated from Virginia to South Carolina via the Great Wagon Road in 1775. The Great Wagon Road was a heavily traveled colonial route from Philadelphia to Augusta that found its origins from the original Iroquois warpath that went through the area. After having settled in the Pendleton district of South Carolina, which is now present-day Pickens and Oconee counties, Charles Hunt Jr. constructed Hunt Cabin in 1826 as a wedding present for his son Ransom and Ransom's new wife Martha. It was built on 2,300 acres of land surrounding the southern portion of present-day Lake Keowee, which is very near to what is now downtown Seneca, South Carolina. This amount of land was substantially greater than the average resident of the area, and the fact that the land was owned by the family residing there was an even more rare occurrence. Most yeoman farmers of the region rented the land that they farmed. They never owned slaves, and the crops that they yielded was barely enough to effectively sustain their family, let alone help pay the rent. Most farming families in the region never made it out of poverty. While the size of the house is small and the amount of land that Ransom Hunt owned wasn't as expansive as that of the Pickens or the Calhoun families that resided in the same area, Hunt Cabin shows us how the wealthier of the middle-class farmers lived during that time. While the Hunts were by no means a prominent family in South Carolina, the value of their home is important. This cabin showcases the average life of the residents in the area. Clemson University's class of 1915 jumped at the chance to purchase the structure for $35 after discovering it was going to be torn down. It was moved to Clemson's campus in 1955 and was eventually moved to its current location in the Botanical Gardens in 1979. Hunt Cabin preserves not only as an example of frontier life of South Carolina, but as a source of pride to Clemson University and its students that took the initiative to preserve this structure.
Strange coming back around.
I actually work for the Botanical Garden, and the Hunt Cabin has been on the grounds of the garden since the 1970s. And for all the time I've worked here, the Hunt Cabin has been only open at Christmas, and so I've really wanted to open the cabin to the public and took that upon myself last year. I opened it once a month with having living history presentations. We have fires and cooking over the fires, and we did laundry last month. So basically, I've taken What's really nice about the cabin is, first of all, people don't expect it to be here, and so it's a surprise when they come upon it in the garden. And when it is open, you hear so many stories from people about how they have either lived in such a cabin or their grandparents lived in such a cabin, and they bring out their stories and they're able to relive those times. It also gives us an insight into what life was like for people who maybe did not have as much money or as much property as some of the iconic visions of the South, large-scale plantations with all the big columns. This is a much more down-to-earth habitation, and I think it really adds to the richness. Once a month we open the cabin in the afternoons on a Saturday, and we have, every time we open it, we cook over the fire, and we have lots of food that we give out to people. We cook all kinds of things, and we make popcorn on the fire. We also have programs about African American history. We did things about foods that were important to African Americans. We've done programs on quilting, programs on fabric production, and the most fun last month was the small children took wash buckets and washboards and did laundry and hung it on a line. I very much hope with our new trail that's opening up, and this is at the head of the trail that turns into the, takes you into the habitats of the mountains of South Carolina, we very much hope that this cabin will increasingly be open to the public and a staging post and an informational point for people.